What's up, everybody? So I'm going to react to Brandon's observations of the Lumix GH7. First off, love watching this guy. Amazing person. He's made shows. We've all grown with him. I've seen him start from the micro four thirds type camera and go all the way to the top. I do productions every single day. By the way, my name is William Davis. I own A.P.C Photography and WDC Media, work alongside the Elite Collective, Converge, and several other companies here in the Pacific Northwest. So let's get on with it. Brandon had an observation on the GH7, and I'm just going to kind of watch the video with you, and we're going to kind of critique it. Brandon, if you call me up or knock me down or get me for copyright, that tells me you're not ready for critiques. Let's go.
I read in the Lumix. I read in the Lumix out there.
It's safe to say they are fans of the channel.
I don't know.
I don't know. Use the word fans.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if safe to say. I read in the Lumix. I read in the Lumix out there.
It's safe to say.
And that is true. This dude's got massive reach. He did it with Red. He did his own show. I thought that was pretty awesome down there in Texas. Lumix must have loved you because they wanted to hear what you had to say.
That we've been able to have, and like this amazing community that we've been able to build. You know, I got a chance to meet a lot of people who just watched the show.
That's
and
cool.
they were telling us about like they loved our dynamic and they had a great time with us. And so it was great to hear all those positive things, which I needed when I walked into the Lumix booth.
Bro, you've been hitting Lumix so hard, it's ridiculous. You've been just like beating them across the head talking about how they need to improve. When they did the improvement, well, what'd you expect?
Walked into the lines, didn't
you know what? That's exactly what it felt like. It felt like I was walking into a furnace, and I was like, ooh, it got hot in here all of a sudden.
Well, you do the same to them every single time. I mean, you be beating them up on here online, but you know what? You're a Red user now. I remember when you used to be a Black Magic user with a micro four thirds, so don't forget your past.
And yeah, I was getting some looks. But I will say they were willing to talk to me and literally walk me through the GH7, which for me, I was like, okay, that's really cool because I know I'm not an idiot. Like, I have not been
the kindest.
See, I was going to say nicest, kindest. I have not maybe given Lumix their... Actually, you know, I feel like I've given them a very fair shot.
In what world? Fair? Oh, no. You ain't giving them fair. I have to say, no, you are far from fair. But your fairness went away once you went to Red. Anything below Red, you're like, it's junk. And that's just how you became. A little bit used to that Red style.
Actually, I'm very honest with everybody. So maybe it sounds like I'm doubling down here for a second. But like...
It's called uncensored for a reason.
But I feel like I have done them... I did right by them, I feel like. Like, I've been very honest.
You said this man did right by them.
Look, I call it as I see it, okay?
Travis, run the clip.
But I feel like when it comes to Lumix, yes, I have been hard on them, but I'm hard on every brand except some brands fight back, right? Like we were like dogging Canon about,
and they deserved it until they did that C400. Canon ain't done nothing. Nothing. And that's a shame. We use C70s all the time. We use I take it back, they did do one thing over the years, and they didn't really announce it, which was a CR series for their PTZs. But everything else, I wish it would have done something better. So we had the right to talk about Canon that way.
out doing nothing forever. And then they fought back, right? I feel like the GH7, after talking with them about it, and their integration with RE Logs 3 is like, they're trying to fight back, but I'm just like, you're so close.
It's funny, like to me, I feel...
Is that the only thing you got out of it? So quick little spec features, like for everybody, so you know what they got. They now have upped tons of game on the Lumix, and I'm not a Lumix fan, by the way. I'm a Sony user. We use the Black Magics for our daily production stuff and all over the place, camera-wise. But let's talk about the Lumix and some of the things they really, really added to this camera. They went open gate, which seems to be like the most important thing for everybody nowadays. So they have that now. They have ProRes, RAW, 265, 32-bit audio. They finally have a usable, not exceptional, not always trustworthy, but phase detection autofocus in their Micro Four Third, which is really, really nice. They have a super sealed body. They had enough sense to work with Tascam to really put together 32-bit float with 96 kilohertz. So you get professional audio, 2 XLR combo port system with 4 channels max. That's pretty badass. The ARRI log, yeah, he's going to get into that in just a second. Let's talk about ARRI log here.
I feel like, and mind you saw it, I didn't see it. From a specs perspective, it felt like they threw the whole kitchen sink at this camera.
Yeah, I feel like that's the
Like
GH line though, right? Like the GH6 was the exact same way.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. When you're saying I'm not sure if they're fighting back,
No, the GH6 did not have the same level of just what's in this camera. And this is someone who is looking at this camera going, oh, my son is going to a university right now, who's in the media. This may be the camera that I get for him so that he can jump in and do cinema, and it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg. I was originally looking at about a 10K package, and I can drop this package down to about $6,500 package. So when he gets done, he can get right to work and make money and do real production. I mean, I know you're used to your $20,000 camera, but don't be so hard, Brandon.
I feel like they threw everything in this camera, even to the point with the ARRI log of, and I know they're trying to like bill it as maybe like a crash cam or like a B cam to an ARRI, but I feel like, and you can't do.
Do you really think that's a B cam? Or a crash cam? No, I think it's a C cam. I think it could be possibly a crash cam, but I highly doubt they would use that as a crash cam. I think it would be one of those scenarios where it's raining, it's snowing, and you still need to get the shot, but it's not going to be a primary shot, and you would still want a good looking shot. I think that's what the camera's for.
Too much to be clear, but it feels like they did so much.
No, I will say, like, from a spec side of things, it looks like they definitely threw everything at it. Now, my personal, and again, this has nothing to do with any other creator out there, so calm down. But like my personal opinion is like I am just not a huge fan of Micro Four Thirds.
And there comes reality. Micro Four Thirds. This brother started on a Micro Four Thirds camera. Brandon, I remember watching you. This is back when I had an A6500. I mean, because I was not going to go Canon. Some people thought I was crazy, but I saw the phase detection and the fact that Sony was adding so many other features that I stuck with Sony, knowing that I was going to have better low light and everything else. But the Micro Four Thirds were really tugging at me. And had they had a better autofocus, I probably would have went that route. But the Micro Four Thirds looks great. And they have a tremendous amount of lenses.
And so
you're saying somebody like put everything into a Honda. They like upgrade.
I didn't say that. You said that. No, I feel like they really did try.
What's wrong with that? I've seen some really amazing Civics that are leather loaded and have 200 plus horsepower. Just amazing cars. So yeah, you can throw it in there and be still luxurious and have a very powerful commuter car.
They're best with like throwing everything in this camera, which I think is a smart move.
Yeah.
Because like what they test in this camera and what we've seen them typically do is like what goes in the GH line normally kind of like moves up, right?
Yeah.
And so
that I have to admit is true. They've really done a lot to bring up their lineup, but that GH line generally has it. As someone who started productions in 1996 or 93, geez, I am aging myself. Yeah, I started with Panasonic's rigs right on the shoulder. those shoulder cams and went forward, they've always were a leader and then kind of fell to the wayside to Sony and Canon in this prosumer area. And now they're coming back up and they're starting to get in that pro and prosumer area where they're going to be a leader again. And I think this is how they're going to bring it in. Not 100% sure, but I think this is really, really how they're going to bring it in.
Maybe it would be insane for me to think that they would partner with Ari on this camera and not on, like, I feel like that's got to be a multi-camera deal.
I don't know about that. Ari has been, in general, partnering with a lot of companies. So, for example, this one has the Ari false color in it now, which is amazing. It's a 4-year-old monitor I purchased that does recording, the Ninja V. Now does a whole bunch of other features, but it also has the Ari false color, which is phenomenal for our skin tones.
Like, so I would hope to see that same Ari integration in a S5. What are they on, 3 now, 4,
Yeah.
whatever, like a S5 camera or the SH1 that they do, like to see that color pipeline put into those cameras with full frame and with higher frame rates, and honestly just not Micro Four Thirds, because that's just a me thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't get that part because in the Micro Four Thirds, they have some beautiful lenses. They're smaller, they're lighter, they work better on gimbals or small rigs. You get 0.9, 1.2, 1.5, 1.4 apertures, which translates into basically 1.8 to 2.8 apertures that are just beautiful. The glass on it, just because it's Micro Four Thirds, doesn't have to be as large to produce just as good or gorgeous of an image. So I don't see any issues with the Micro Four Thirds. And then let's be real about it. Professional cameras are still using 1-inch sensors and 2/3 sensors. Sometimes multiple of them. Canon just released a $10,000 PTZ with a 1-inch sensor, the Canon CR N700. 10 grand. We're buying one, but it's a 1-inch sensor. Come on, man. That Micro Four Thirds isn't what you think it is.
I would love to see them do that. Now, that said, Lumix is not afraid. I will give them like their fighting chance, because they looked me in the face and they were like, "You want the GH7? I'll send you one. I want you to test it for yourself." Which I was like, yo, that's ballsy, because I shoot a lot of cameras and they know I haven't been nice already.
Yeah,
So
And that's right. And that's the one thing that if you're using a Panasonic one and you actually, Brandon, I'm going to ask you this. You said in this video later on that you know, speed booster and everything else. Remove the speed booster idea. Literally take the higher end lenses and use them. And I think ultimately you will be surprised, happy with that. Sorry about that. You'll be super happy with that and ready to go. I think you'll be surprised.
they're very confident in the camera, which is like why I plan, after I come back from my trip, to take them up on that offer. I do want to get the GH7 in my hands. Granted, I will be putting a speed booster on it because
Well, that's what I was about to ask you. What is it going to take for the GH7 to change your mind?
You know, I don't know if it's necessarily that I don't think my mind will be changed around this one camera. I think this camera is a future setter. Like, I feel like the way that like Canon did the C400, and you know what's coming after it, which will be cheaper and lower in the line, you get excited about that because they kind of showed you like the North Star. This camera is more like the start. And then you kind of can get like a vision of, ooh, the future could kind of go anywhere, because the other cameras get more expensive, better processors, bigger sensors, so they could actually do more with this. Hell, what if they took this technology and tried to bring back their cinema line, right? Which could be, you know, obviously they abandoned that thing quick, but like
Yeah, that pissed me off because they had a nice start to the cinema line, but I think basically Sony and Canon's hybrid cameras, especially like the Sony FX series and the 5RC, pretty much killed everyone's shot at just doing an entry-level cinema camera and they're going to get away with doing like a $6,000 camera, $7,000 camera that didn't match those features. That sucked for everybody. I don't care who you are, what you are. Even Canon got caught in its own web on that one. The C70 is dead, by the way. Anyone who's a Canon user who has a C70, I'm sorry, and that includes our own stuff. But it's. I don't think there's going to be a Mark II. If there is a Mark II, it's going to be ate away by the 5RC or R5C. So Panasonic's being smart in the way that they're sticking with the Micro Four Thirds. It gives them an avenue to have their own way of still staying relevant.
It could be really cool to see them take this tech and throw it in there. And so, like, I would have to see this image just really look great. Now, the problem that I think they're going to run into is they are trying to say this is an Alexa Mini or whatever. And I've seen people on Instagram already saying, this is a baby Alexa Mini. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, it's just.
Have you really seen that? Now, if you have, I get it. And for a lot of people, it will be their Alexa Mini. Because it's just a beautiful image that's coming out of it. But no, it's not an LF. It's not going to be a large format camera. Then again, a lot of productions don't need large format.
It's just not. But, you know, it makes sense that they're trying to create cameras that can work in a professional environment. And it can kind of give you that, like, that first step. Like, you can get this camera, pay extra for the profile, which I'm just like, I get it, but like, really? Like, pay extra for the profile and then start here with the goal of ending up with shooting on an Alexa Mini or shooting on an Alexa camera, and you understand the pipeline already. Because I can be honest, like, I don't shoot on Alexas very often. Like, I've only done like 2 projects on one. I don't understand the pipeline that well.
Yeah.
But if you get this camera, it can actually walk you through the process, and you start to learn.
And that made their point, which you just negated, was it is kind of like an Airy Mini, because there are going to be a lot of the steps in the process that are exactly the same. And it makes it difficult when you're saying, no, it isn't. And at the same time, we know it is. The Airy Alexa is a way that you're probably going to end up going. But, you know, Brandon, I'm loving where you're going with this, and at the same time, I'm not.
And you start to learn what that pipeline actually looks like. And so by the time you get there, you're ready. It's kind of like you buy a Komodo, and if you ever get to a point where you're going to buy or shoot on a Raptor, you already know what you're doing by the time you.
And that's where you're at. And a lot of people are going through the flow a different way. You know, some of us started with, like you did, Micro Four Thirds. I started with A.P.C. I do full frames, big cam, small cam, doesn't make a difference. Multi-cam, no difference at all. But others are going to specialize in a workflow, and just like you have, you specialized in that red workflow, and that started essentially with Canon. And that's kind of weird, but it's not the first person I've ever seen go from Canon to red, and it's not been a hard workflow change. And you'll continue to grow with that. But also look at the fact that the Panasonic has been around in video a long time. The body they put together here is basically a workhorse body. It's a Micro Four Thirds body, so there's a ton of lenses available in both cinematic and just ready to go right off the bat lenses. It fits the hybrid world, which is going to be really the new world that everyone's in. If you're going to be doing production work for any company, social media stuff, whatever, you're going to be able to take a great photo, and then you're going to be able to do great video at the same time. Use a smaller crew, so it may just be you working with a gaffer, and you're going to be doing everything from sound, light, the whole works. There's a 2-man crew because, you know, that's how a lot of times you start off with, and having a strong body to start with, camera-wise, this is kind of a winner, and you're not seeing it because you've elevated your game well beyond where it was before, and you've forgotten what it's like to start back there.
Get there.
For sure.
Right? So I feel like this is like that really good starting point. But what's like still just kind of blows my mind is that, like, it's a GH7. Like, at the end of the day, most of the people who are going to pick it up will never go through that pipeline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're just not going to do it. So it's kind of like.
That's not true. They're going to go through the pipeline. It's just going to take them longer to get to the camera. And I think that's where you forget. Like, you start off with a very small camera, and it took you 3 years or 2 years just to get to a full frame camera that was affordable for you. You had enough money set aside to be able to do that. That happened to a lot of us. I mean, I started with an APS-C camera, went through a bunch of different ones. Now, full frame and Super 35, love both, but it's just a matter of understanding the growth, and then I rent the rest. So
a camera that's like caught in two worlds. It's like, can we use this camera in a professional environment alongside Alexa's, or is it a camera for just, you know, people to use as an Instagram camera or to take pictures of their kids? Like,
it's both. If you're in a workflow that allows you to use this camera in a crash cam or C or third cam, fourth cam on set, it's going to be great because you're going to be able to catch certain shots that, one, you're not going to put $100,000 camera into, and two, when you have a 40 freaking pound build and you just need a little tiny shot in the corner of the room, that's going to really be 15, 20 seconds of footage that you're going to drop down to 3 seconds. There's no point in tearing apart the rig. Just take the camera out, shoot the shot, you're done, and still keep the big rig up. So it allows your second crew to get a lot of work done while your first crew works on the vision and storytelling. And the second crew gets the elements that assist it. And that's where this camera comes in. So you can really start with a small rig setup with this. And by the time it's built out, like for example, one of the ones I've got back here is built out of like $8,000 or $10,000 rig. It's really a nice setup that can get really good images that you would normally not get out of that LF or any other one without having to tear it all the way down and then reconfigure. You're looking at 45 minutes when you can just jump in and get 3 minutes worth of work done real quick. And it still matches up every color.
it's such a weird thing that like we used to look at hybrid cameras as like, oh, it takes photo and it does video. Now a hybrid camera is, I can do the least and I can try to shoot for the most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's so crazy. I feel like the GH7, exciting is not the word because I mean, I don't know, but
Canon hater, you got a haterade on, man. I know you love Canon, and it's all good.
I will say,
The
and this is no
fanboy caught your tongue there. You got the Canon
it's not.
fanboy caught your tongue.
No, it's just like it's hard to be excited for anything, like really excited for anything that you're not in its ecosystem.
Yeah.
But I will say,
And that's bias. And that sucks because if we're really talking about a powerful camera, if I would have told you right now, Canon is going to give you ARRI, log, period, you're going to be happy. You're going to get open gate with ProRes, 5.7, 30p raw. You're happy. That you're just super happy. 32-bit float audio, you're jumping off the roof happy with that. The ability to record through USB-C, wow, that's awesome. Having a fan inside of a small body camera that doesn't look like you have a fan there, awesome. Weather sealed, you're just off the charts happy about that. And then, adding in LUTs, you're going to be like, yep. And then you have easy transfer, frame IO, all from the same camera. And then you can live stream with it. I mean, literally, you can hook a wire into it or you can do wirelessly. Yeah, you would be super excited if it said Canon. Hell, I'd be super excited if it said Sony.
that with the GH7, massive props to it is trying to hit home runs.
Yeah.
At a $2,200 price point.
Yeah.
Like 4K 120, you can't find that in a sub $4,000 camera. Like,
that's not true. It's available right now on the FX30 and a couple other cameras. Yes, it is a crop, but essentially the crop's the same as a Micro Four Thirds, so it'll be the same looking shot.
Like, that's kind of a...
I'm not saying you can, but I'm just saying there's a huge caveat with the fact that it is Micro Four Thirds. So
yeah.
And that Micro Four Thirds, that's a dumbest argument.
A less data.
No. And that's what I'm saying. Like, but I'm saying in that, like, that's they are trying to. Now, here's the deal. If the 3, 4, 5, 6 were all full frame, and then they went down to micro four thirds to get the 4K 120, then I would be like, that would feel the way that you just felt.
Yeah.
But I felt like they've been rocking with the micro four thirds, which is why I've stayed away from them. But to be fair,
so I have a question for both of you. Have you taken the time to play with Lumix's lenses? So, for example, have you had an opportunity to work with their 15 millimeter 1.7, which is a beautiful lens? Their 25 millimeter 1.4, which is another gorgeous lens. Their 42 1.2, and I'm talking if you're doing interviews and you're trying to get that tight on the face and just get that look, I gotta say, that bad boy, do it. Have you worked with their like G series, the 7 millimeter to 14 millimeter? It's an f4, translates into an f8, but if you've ever used something like that, you'll see where that's really good in certain situations. So it's like a 14 to 28. Have you ever used their 10 millimeter to 25 millimeter, their Leica G series lens? Oh my God. I think y'all have never really played with their lenses and had a chance to play with theirs. There are some 3.5s that are terrible, but their other nice lenses are just incredible.
it does feel like they are trying to do a lot and they're trying to win some market share. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I think if we can speed boost and get it close to full frame, like you can do with the C70, I think you might have something that might be worth it. And I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see when we shoot on it.
I take my mind back to the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. For the price, now granted, that was like $12.99, so much cheaper, right? $1,300, $1,100, somewhere around there. Like, I was like, for that price, yeah, I'll throw a speed booster on it. And you can get 4K RAW, Blackmagic RAW at the time. Wasn't shooting red yet. I was like, ooh, that's really good. I'm willing to deal with the limitations of micro four thirds for the outcome that I'm getting out of this camera at such a cheap price. So to go back to your original question of like, what would it take for that camera to change my mind? The image out of it would have to be so spectacular that it's like, hey, I know it's micro four thirds. Just put this speed booster.
And that's where the problem comes in. You've probably never used any of the nitro lenses. And because of that, you just really don't know what it's capable of doing. So there's a couple new lenses that just came out. If you tried it with it, you would be completely surprised. So for example, the DZO 20 to 70 millimeter, that's probably just going to be a beautiful lens on there. You're just not going to lose on that. If you were to do something like a Rokinon lens, which is like a inexpensive lens, yeah, I can see where you can say, I don't see where it is, a good lens. You can still use, I believe Zeiss has some micro four thirds. You're really, in the cinematic lenses, you have a ton of lenses to choose from, but I don't think you've taken the time to really play with what is available in micro four thirds. So, for example, Zeiss has just a beautiful set of CPs that would work perfect for it. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to spend $25,000 for a set of lenses, but that's going to work great for it. Vazen's got some great lenses that are anamorphic. It's VAZEN, and those are micro four thirds, and you're going to get 28 millimeter, 40 millimeter, and 65 millimeter. Those are just beautiful lenses to work with. So I think what's happening is you've never attached really high-end glass to that sensor that's in front of that micro four thirds and seen the real beautiful shots like what you're talking about, adding a speed booster to try to go to a lens.
On it and forget about it. Because that's literally what I did with my 4K. I put a Metabone speed booster on it and I forgot about it. Was running EF lenses on it only and never treated the camera like it was micro four thirds. And it did a good job.
Yeah. The autofocus and the IBIS need to, in addition to the image, need to be.
Okay, autofocus, you win there. For Panasonic, their autofocus has been an issue. But IBIS? IBIS on Panasonic? That's an IBIS? No. IBIS has never been an issue with Panasonic. They've always killed in that area.
It'd be awesome because as far as I remember, and I'm not talking like from experience, I'm just saying what I remember, the autofocus was trash in the past.
Yeah, I mean, that's
it's the way that they were trying to achieve.
I'm going to go back to one thing here real quick. I want to challenge Brandon to this. This set you should be able to get fairly easy for rental, which is an IRIX Cine Extreme set. 11 millimeter, 21 millimeter, 30 millimeter, 45 millimeter, and 150 millimeter micro four thirds set. And you should be able to rent those or an equivalent to those pretty easy. I guarantee you, if you rented that set of lenses with this camera, everything you're saying right now in this conversation would really go away. And that's really the equivalent of a 22 millimeter, 42 millimeter, 60 millimeter, 90 millimeter, and 300 millimeter in lens wise, if you were doing that full frame.
Achieve it through contrast
yeah,
detection, phase
but they
detection.
got better with future cameras.
Yes.
I would go as far for me personally and say, like, I would probably be throwing like cinema lenses on this thing and not even caring about the autofocus.
Yeah.
Because in order to use the autofocus, you'd have to then use micro four thirds lenses, and now you're back to having to deal with the limitations of micro four thirds.
Ooh, does Metabones not make an adapter to allow you to, or is it like?
I don't know. That's got to be something.
GH7 cross off the list. It's off the list. No.
I can't believe y'all talking about that, but I guarantee you've never used the 0.9s, the 1.2s, the 1.7s, and the f-stops of any of those lenses in the micro four thirds area, and that's why you've had this performance issue. And
to be fair, I have been thinking about that DJI Focus
combo. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking because
you were
of the
tentatively
price,
back on the list.
Because of the price, you take the GH7, you throw a Metabones adapter on it, throw some cinema lenses, and then do the DJI LiDAR system. That could be a super small Frankenstein package. But again, it only comes down to the image for me. And I have to see the image.
I can't say of any time I saw Panasonic with a shitty image, excuse my language, a terrible image. They have always had a good to superb image. The micro four thirds really was never an issue for me. It was the autofocus. I wanted the ability to not have to have an AC on the set all the time, and that's the reason why I went with Sony over Panasonic. I looked at the GH5. I looked at all of those when those were out, and I looked at the Blackmagic. It really was the autofocus system. And I played with both Canon and Sony's, and I saw the potential in Sony's autofocus was going to be better than the potential in the Canon autofocus, and it's turned out I was correct. Plus, Sony has just been everywhere for years, and I was thinking about what was going to be on the elevation going up to cinema or going up to daily production, and Sony was there. Panasonic has also been there for a long time. If you ever go to live events and you're looking at IMAGs, what's on the screens, 40% of those to 30% of those, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 is a camcorder from Panasonic, 4K. So yeah, they know what they're doing.
So I have seen some teasers.
Yeah,
our good friends over at Creator just shot a film, a short film. I'm not really sure what it is, but like a Western, and they were all at Cinegear, and they showed me some side-by-sides, because they shot, I think it was the Alexa Mini, I don't think it was the LF, but it was the Alexa Mini, and it was this.
Could you tell?
And no, not based off what they showed me, but I mean, coloring, if you know what you're doing. But they showed me screenshots. They didn't show me like...
And that's your point. You made it for most of us who are in production. If you know what you're doing with coloring, it really don't make no difference. I use S-Cinetone all the time. A lot of my friends still use S-Log 3. I just don't. I start off with a really good start point for our colorist, and our colorist just knocks it out the park. Great tones, great everything. It's all about, colorist and the person behind the camera just making sure everything is lined up for the colorist in a way that works for them.
Footage.
Wow.
They wouldn't show me footage. So we'll see.
You heard it here on Uncensored.
Oh, was that exclusive?
The GH7 is as good as the Alexa.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Whoa.
I didn't say that.
No.
You're worried about it.
We can't. fun to watch. Thanks for watching here with my reaction to Brandon and the Uncensored. Beyond that, y'all take care.